Hello. Welcome to your channel, Wellness at My Age. Today we'll talk about foods that are harmful to your health, causing serious intestinal damage. You are not simply what you eat, you are what you digest and what your gut microbiota does with the food you consume. Many people believe that the brain is the body's great director, but the real control center might be in the gut. This organ regulates your immune system, your hormones, and even your emotional state. And although most people try to take care of their health without realizing it, they are often harming it by damaging the delicate balance of the gut ecosystem with the very foods they put on their plates every day. I'm Dr. Gabriel Mina, and today I want to talk to you about the amazing importance of the gut and the 10 worst foods that can affect your well-being. This list is not in any specific order, but each point is key to protecting your health. Let's start with number 10, processed meats, such as sausages, bacon, and cold cuts. One of the major problems with these products is that they contain nitrates and nitrites, substances that, when combined with proteins, can transform into nitrosamines, compounds with carcinogenic potential. But it's not the nitrates or nitrites themselves that cause the harm. The real risk arises when they are exposed to high temperatures or an acidic environment, conditions that favor the formation of nitrosamines. This can occur both due to excess stomach acid, something necessary for proper protein digestion, and by cooking these foods over excessively high heat. Therefore, the key is to cook them slowly, preventing the formation of these toxic compounds. For example, frying bacon in very hot oil is one of the worst ways to prepare it. If you cook it slowly, you will significantly reduce the formation of harmful substances. And although many have heard about this issue, what few know is that it's not a problem exclusive to processed meats. Even plant-based foods contain nitrates and nitrites, as well as protein, so they can also form nitrosamines, albeit in smaller amounts. However, plants have a significant advantage: antioxidants, polyphenol, and other natural compounds that help counteract these effects. So, if you're going to eat processed meats or grill them, be sure to pair them with antioxidant-rich vegetables. This combination can make a big difference to your gut health. And since we're talking about taking care of your body and learning how to nourish it better every day, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share this video with someone you'd like to help improve their health. We upload new content every day, and each video can bring you one step closer to understanding how your body works from the inside out. Now, when we cook food at very high temperatures, heterocyclic amines or polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons can also be generated. Simply put, they are chemical substances that irritate or damage the intestinal lining, the very barrier we want to protect. Another problem with processed meats is the quality of their ingredients. They often contain monosodium glutamate, preservatives, fillers, and even sugar. So, choosing wisely is essential. Processed meats aren't necessarily bad if they are made to high-quality standards, but we must understand the enormous importance of our gut. And what I've mentioned so far is just a small part of the picture. This isn't just about digestive discomfort. We all know that when the stomach feels bad, the whole body suffers. But it goes much further than that. The gut isn't just responsible for digesting and absorbing food, it's also the bridge that allows everything we eat to actually reach our cells. It's a complex system, a digestive tract teeming with life. Within it live trillions of bacteria, a veritable universe known as the gut microbiome. They digest what our body cannot process on its own and convert those compounds into nutrients we can use. Few people know that these bacteria produce vitamins such as B1, B2, B6, B12, and K2. If your gut is healthy, these bacteria generate them and also activate and transform the nutrients so the body can absorb them. So, even if you eat the best foods in the world, if your microbiota is unbalanced, your body won't be able to get the most benefit from them. Another essential aspect for understanding the function of the gut is that around 70% of the immune system is located there. The small intestine, also known as gut-associated lymphoid tissue, houses most of our immune cells, white blood cells, defense cells, and much of the blood involved in this protective process. If we could observe the inside of the intestine at a microscopic level, we would see thousands of intestinal villi, tiny structures that greatly increase the surface area for absorption. Within these small areas are layers of enzymes and specialized substances that perform very precise functions. And just beneath them lies the basement membrane, where much of the immune system resides. As I mentioned before, most of our immune cells live in this environment. Why is this? Because everything we ingest that passes through the intestine is, in principle, foreign to the body. It is not yet part of us. It must be analyzed, recognized, and processed before being integrated. This is why the intestinal immune system is so active. If something foreign manages to cross this barrier, the white blood cells in the intestine detect it and react immediately. And just on the other side of that border is our gut microbiota, that vast community of bacteria that live in symbiosis with us. There are thousands of them in the mucous membranes, in the intestinal lumen, and, of course, in fecal matter. When there is a healthy balance among these bacteria, the immune system learns to behave in a stable manner without overreacting. Internal harmony is generated. But when the balance is disrupted, for example, if harmful bacteria proliferate, what we know as dysbiosis occurs, a state of chaos that causes the immune system to react constantly, even without real reason. The greater this chaos, the more inflammation is produced, and with it come allergies, intolerances, and various sensitivities. Another fascinating fact is that around 90% of serotonin, the neurotransmitter of well-being and calm, is produced in the gut. This means that a large part of your mood and energy level depends directly on the health of your gut flora. For this reason, the gut is often called the second brain. And it's not a metaphor. It contains a huge amount of nerve tissue, a complex system called the enteric nervous system, which works alongside the immune system and the microbiota. In fact, it could be said that this second brain profoundly influences the first, because communication between the two is bidirectional. What happens in your gut affects your emotional state, your mental clarity, and even your level of consciousness. In a way, we share our minds with the microorganisms that live inside us. It's fascinating to think that we have two systems coexisting. One is the human body, and the other is the microscopic universe of bacteria that inhabits the gut. It's estimated that we harbor around 40 trillion bacteria, a number similar to that of our own cells. Together they form an ecosystem that produces chemical substances, processes information, and sends constant signals to the brain, participating in every aspect of our well-being. Now let's move on to food number 9 that can damage the gut: low-fat pasteurized dairy products in any form. One of the main problems is that they contain a protein called beta-casein A1, which most people don't digest properly. This protein can be transformed into a compound called beta-casomorphin 7, which significantly increases the risk of food reactions, inflammation, and intestinal permeability. And here's an important point: low-fat dairy products are often more harmful than full-fat dairy. Because by removing the fat, you also remove the component that helped buffer irritation. This increases the proportion of beta-casein A1 and removes approximately 90% of the natural fat, which acted as a protective barrier. The result is milk with more irritating protein and faster absorption into the tissues, leading to greater inflammation. Furthermore, pasteurization presents another major challenge. Many people have difficulty digesting dairy products due to lactose intolerance or protein sensitivity. But nature didn't make a mistake. Milk was designed as the perfect food for mammal offspring. The problem arises when we modify it. During the pasteurization process, many of the natural, living substances contained in fresh milk are destroyed. In its original state, milk, like breast milk, contains enzymes such as lipase and lactase, which help digest fats, and lactose, as well as phosphatase, an essential enzyme for absorbing calcium and phosphorus. You've probably seen advertisements claiming that milk is good for your body and that it helps strengthen bones. But what they don't tell you is that pasteurization destroys phosphatase, and therefore only a small fraction of the calcium and phosphorus that actually strengthen bones is absorbed. That's why, rather than eliminating foods, my suggestion is to understand how they work within your body. And if you enjoy learning about healing from within, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share this video. I upload new content here every day, designed to help you understand your body, care for it, and reconnect with your natural health. Furthermore, the pasteurization process also destroys protease, a fundamental enzyme responsible for breaking down proteins and helping us digest A1 casein. But that's not all. Pasteurization completely eliminates natural probiotics, such as lactobacilli and bifidobacteria, which are essential microorganisms for maintaining a balanced gut microbiota. That's why raw milk, in its natural state, is a surprisingly nutritious and beneficial food. If this product were not subjected to this heating process, and raw milk were offered to someone with a dairy allergy or intolerance, around 95% would tolerate it without problems, even those with lactose sensitivity. Of course, there will always be exceptions. People with extreme reactions who won't be able to consume it. One point I find regrettable is that, in most countries, the sale and distribution of raw milk is illegal. However, in some places it's sold indirectly under the label of pet milk. If you do find it, make sure it's whole milk with the fat not removed and that it's also raw, meaning unpasteurized. And if possible, look for milk from an A2 cow. This doesn't mean there are two different kinds of milk, but rather that there are two variants of the casein protein, A1 and A2. Some cows produce only A1, others a mixture, and others exclusively A2. The difference is that A2 doesn't produce beta-casomorphin 7, the compound responsible for much of the intestinal irritation. This doesn't guarantee that everyone can tolerate dairy, but it does significantly increase the chances that the body will process it better. And who knows, if there's a little left after your pet has enjoyed its portion, maybe it will let you have a sip. Now let's move on to the 8 foods that can damage your gut. Processed products that appear to be healthy. This includes things like granola bars full of sugar and refined grains, yogurts with sweeteners, stabilizers, artificial flavorings, or even plant-based milks, like oat, soy, or almond, that are often sold as healthy alternatives. The list is practically endless. Not all plant-based foods are inherently harmful, but the problem lies in the additives they contain. The industry invests millions of dollars in advertising to make us believe they are natural and healthy products, when in reality they are often packed with sugar, refined vegetable oils, and emulsifiers. These compounds improve the texture and stability of foods, but they can have a very negative impact on our gut. Later in this video, we will discuss these 3 aspects in more detail. The term plant-based has become something of a cliché. Many people automatically assume that simply because it's plant-based, it's healthy. But the reality is not so simple. I'm neither for nor against plant-based products. The important thing is to understand their origin and processing. Most of these foods come from crops treated with glyphosate and other pesticides. Then they undergo chemical processes that alter their natural structure, directly affecting gut health. And what's most worrying is that many people believe they're doing something good for their bodies by consuming them. They think, I'm going to treat myself to something healthy, without realizing that, in reality, they're ingesting something that can have the opposite effect. The 7th harmful element for the gut is emulsifiers and additives, including polysorbate 80, carrageenan, and xanthan gum. Some come from natural sources, others are completely synthetic, but the problem is the same. Their function is to mix water and fat, keeping food stable and homogeneous. The issue is that these same properties alter cell membranes and the body's protective layers. The gut, for example, has a mucus layer that acts as a shield, protecting intestinal cells from the substances that pass through it. This mucus is constantly renewed and is essential for maintaining a strong and healthy barrier. However, many of the foods that damage the gut do so precisely by destroying this protective layer. Polysorbate 80 is a prime example. It weakens the intestinal mucus, allowing bacteria to get closer to cell membranes. When this happens and intestinal permeability is present, these bacteria can cross the barrier and activate the immune system, triggering inflammation. Carrageenan, although marketed as a natural product, doesn't improve the situation much. It also interferes with the mucus layer and can trick the immune system into believing it's a real infection. Consequently, the body reacts. It activates immune cells and triggers an inflammatory response. Let's remember that most of the body's immune cells are located in the gut, so any alteration there can have repercussions throughout the body. And so we arrive at the sixth factor that damages the gut: alcohol. Alcohol is, by nature, a solvent, and precisely for that reason, it can cause various types of damage to our gut. It directly affects enterocytes, which are the cells that line the inner surface of the intestine, and it also interferes with the production of mucin, that protective layer so necessary for maintaining a healthy intestinal barrier. When this barrier weakens, the gut becomes much more vulnerable. And this doesn't only happen with alcohol. When the intestinal mucosa thins, endotoxins begin to leak out, especially lipopolysaccharides, or LPS. These endotoxins are toxic substances produced by harmful bacteria within the body. If pathogenic bacteria grow unchecked, these toxins accumulate and eventually cross the intestinal barrier. This generates inflammation, but it also profoundly alters our emotional state. In a scientific experiment, a small dose of LPS was administered directly into the bloodstream of participants, bypassing the body's natural barriers. Within minutes, all of them developed clinical symptoms of depression. This simple fact shows us the extent to which gut health influences our mind and overall well-being. Because it's not just about digesting food, but about how we feel every day. The gut and brain are deeply connected. We could say they share a common language. So, if this topic interests you and you want to learn more about how to care for your body from the inside out, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share this content with those who are also looking to improve their health naturally. We upload new videos every day with practical and easy-to-apply information. Let's continue. The fifth food that can damage the gut is gluten, which is found primarily in modern wheat. This type of wheat contains a protein that stimulates the production of zonulin, a substance that increases intestinal permeability, allowing particles that shouldn't cross that barrier to pass through. And although other grains also contain gluten, modern wheat, the result of numerous hybridization processes, has much higher concentrations, up to 50 times more than ancient grains like spelt, rye, or barley. Another important detail is that gluten isn't a single substance, but a family of proteins. There are dozens, even hundreds, of different variants. Each one has small structures called epitopes, which the immune system recognizes. The problem is that these epitopes can look similar to each other, leading to cross-reactions. For example, you could eat corn, and your immune system could mistake it for gluten, attacking the corn itself. In the most severe cases, this process can become autoimmune, causing the body to attack its own tissues. The most extreme form of this condition is known as celiac disease, in which even a tiny amount of gluten is enough to cause severe damage to the intestine. However, even without reaching that point, many people experience mild or moderate reactions to gluten without knowing. It's more common than we imagine. The next group of harmful substances are artificial sweeteners, especially three: aspartame, sucralose, and acesulfame K. All of them disrupt the natural balance of gut bacteria, reducing populations of beneficial microorganisms such as lactobacilli and bifidobacteria, the same ones found in raw milk, but which are destroyed during pasteurization. When these bacteria decrease, harmful bacteria take advantage of the space and grow uncontrollably. Furthermore, this affects the ratio between two fundamental groups, firmicutes and bacteroidetes. This balance is key to metabolic health. When it is disrupted, the body begins to send incorrect signals, promoting weight gain and insulin resistance. It's ironic, isn't it? Many people start consuming artificial sweeteners to lose weight or control their blood sugar, but unknowingly, they're damaging their gut microbiota and negatively impacting their metabolism. And what's most concerning is that one of these sweeteners, aspartame, can be even more problematic than the others. In the body, it breaks down into certain compounds that some people can't metabolize properly, leading to alterations in serotonin levels, the neurotransmitter associated with emotional well-being. As a result, mood swings, anxiety, uncontrolled cravings, and even digestive problems can occur. That's why my recommendation is to completely avoid artificial sweeteners, especially these three. They not only damage the gut but also disrupt our mind and emotional balance. Little by little, we're understanding that everything, absolutely everything, begins in the gut. Our physical, mental, and emotional health depends, to a large extent, on the balance of our gut microbiota. And that balance is cultivated every day through our choices. As the baby passes through the birth canal, it receives what could be considered its first essential nourishment, a natural bath of beneficial bacteria that colonize its body and become the first allies of its gut microbiota. It is a profoundly wise biological experience. However, nowadays, many births occur by cesarean section, and disinfectants and alcohol are used to clean the environment. Therefore, even some babies born vaginally miss out on some of that valuable first bacterial exposure. From there, the exchange continues. The mother transmits bacteria to her child in many ways, through breast milk, skin-to-skin contact, and everyday kisses and hugs. But here a problem arises that is becoming increasingly evident: the excessive use of antibiotics, pesticides, chemicals, and ultra-processed foods is weakening the bacterial diversity in mothers' bodies. And, of course, the more impoverished the mother's microbiota, the less she can share with her child. This loss is inherited. Each generation receives a little less than the previous one. Our great-grandmother had a more diverse gut microbiota than our grandmother, and so on. After several generations subjected to the impact of antibiotics, pesticides, and processed food, we have reached a critical point. Furthermore, along with our gut microbiota, we also inherit our DNA and how it is expressed, which we know as epigenetics. Similarly, poor lifestyle habits, constant stress, nutrient deficiencies, and environmental chemicals leave traces that are passed down. Each generation inherits a bit of this accumulated wear and tear. That is why today we see a notable increase in conditions such as autism, allergies, ADHD, and many other disorders. They are not due to a single cause, but rather to the sum of many factors. And although I am not against vaccines, I believe they play an important role in some cases. I think their excessive and uncontrolled use has altered a very important natural process, that of the gut-associated lymphoid tissue, which is responsible for analyzing what enters the body and building an appropriate immune response. By injecting directly, this system is partially bypassed, which can have long-term consequences. If we add to that the effects of gut imbalance, changes in DNA, and poor nutrition, it's clear we're facing a complex problem. There isn't a single cause, but rather a combination of many decisions and habits that have distanced us from nature and our own biological design. That's why I always emphasize, we have to relearn how our bodies work. Regaining that knowledge is the first step to reversing the damage and returning to balance. And if these kinds of topics interest you, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share this video with your family or friends. We publish new content here every day, with practical information and simple tools to take care of your health from the inside out. Now, continuing with the topic, the third food that harms the gut is seed oils. I'm referring to refined vegetable oils, such as canola, soybean, corn, sunflower, or safflower oil. The main problem with these oils isn't just their origin, but how they are processed. They are subjected to very high temperatures and pressures, and chemical solvents, like acetone, are often used to extract every last drop from the grain or seed. The result is an oil that appears clean, transparent, and harmless, but is already oxidized and damaged even before it reaches your hands. Furthermore, it has an excessive content of omega-6 fatty acids, which disrupts the natural balance between omega-6 and omega-3 in the body. This imbalance acts as an inflammatory signal, promoting oxidative stress and contributing to chronic inflammatory processes. Omega-6 are polyunsaturated fats, which means they have a chemical structure that is very sensitive to heat, light, and oxygen. This makes them unstable and prone to oxidation. And when they oxidize, they generate free radicals and lipid peroxides, highly reactive molecules that damage tissues, especially the intestinal mucosa. Therefore, these oils not only contribute to systemic inflammation but also directly impair the intestinal barrier, weakening one of our main lines of defense. The next point is closely related: fried foods. We already saw in the previous section why we should avoid them. Not only do they concentrate large amounts of damaged omega-6 fatty acids, but during frying, these oils degrade even further, generating toxic compounds that end up harming our gut and our metabolism in general. When we fry food, we subject it to extreme, almost boiling, heat, and also expose it to oxygen. This causes it to become filled with oxidized oils and, to a large extent, advanced glycation end products, known as AGEs. All of this acts as a corrosive substance for the body. It deeply damages the intestinal microvilli, those tiny structures I showed in the drawing, and causes an imbalance in bile acids. Our body uses a particular type of fat and cholesterol to produce bile. When we consume a lot of these deteriorated oils, the quality of the bile decreases, and that puts more pressure on the gallbladder. In addition, most fried foods are coated in flour, which gives them that crispy texture that is so appealing. But that flour usually comes from modern wheat, which contains a protein called gliadin, responsible for generating various immune reactions in the body. Ultimately, the foods that most affect the gut are sugar and ultra-processed products, especially refined carbohydrates and starches. It's not that they are necessarily more harmful than others we've mentioned, but they are the most frequent and widespread in our current diet. Nowadays, these ingredients are present in practically everything, especially in Western countries. In fact, processed foods and fast food, such as white sugar, white flour, and refined vegetable oils, account for 50 to 60% of what most people consume daily, that is, more than half of their total calories. And here's something very interesting. Certain pathogenic bacteria, that is, harmful bacteria, feed on sugar. They are fascinated by simple sugars. When we eat processed foods, they break down very quickly into monosaccharides and disaccharides, that is, into simple forms of sugar, directly feeding these harmful bacteria and also the intestinal yeasts that thrive on sugar. Among the best known are Candida albicans, which causes yeast overgrowth, and Clostridium difficile, a bacterium that can cause serious intestinal infections. These foods not only alter the gut microbiota but also affect metabolism. They contribute to the development of insulin resistance, which in turn generates chronic low-grade inflammation. This inflammation increases intestinal permeability, a phenomenon known as leaky gut syndrome. And because sugar raises blood glucose levels, it also increases the formation of advanced glycation end products, AGEs, those corrosive molecules that damage tissues and age cells. Furthermore, excess sugar promotes intestinal fermentation. So, when there's a combination of yeast, fermentation, and sugar, it essentially creates a small brewery inside the gut, an environment that generates inflammation, gas, and constant wear and tear on the intestinal lining. That's why I always say, gut health is the foundation of all health. If we take care of our gut, the whole body benefits. If we neglect it, the entire organism pays the price. And if these kinds of topics help you better understand how your body works, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share this video with those you know who want to improve their well-being. We upload new content here every day, designed to help you learn to take care of your health naturally and consciously. Remember, knowledge is a powerful tool, but applying it with love and purpose transforms it into wisdom. And before we say goodbye, I want to invite you to something deeper. To thank God for life, for each day we can learn, and for the opportunity to care for our bodies, which are the temples where His Spirit dwells. If you feel in your heart the desire to draw closer to Him, I invite you to repeat this prayer with me, calmly and sincerely. Father, thank you for everything you do in my life. I ask for forgiveness for my sins and for everything that displeases you about me. I accept you as my Lord and Savior. Write my name in the book of life and never erase it. I surrender my life, my mind, my heart, my spirit, and my soul to you, so that from this moment on, you will be the only one who governs my life. In Jesus' name, thank you for joining me in this space. I send you a warm embrace filled with health, faith, and hope. And don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, and come back tomorrow, because we upload new videos every day so we can continue learning together how to take care of our body and soul.